Got it. Well, welcome everybody. It is 10 a.m. and we are excited to welcome you today. As Ismail, I'm going to echo what they're saying. Welcome to NEM 2023. It is pitch perfect refining your interview skills with Walter Fady in partnership with National Engineering Month. So we're excited to be here with you today. My name is Jody Godwalt. I'm part of the HR team here at Walter Fady, and we're so glad you're here. First of all, we'd like to start off with a land acknowledgement. We would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are coming to you from Kitchener, Ontario, which is situated on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. This territory is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum. Our office is situated on the Haldimand Tract that was land promised to the Six Nations of Grand River. That includes 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. We acknowledge the history and enduring significance of this land and its people and express our gratitude to be present here today. So again, thank you for joining us. On our agenda today, we're going to share a little bit about who Walter Fady is. We're going to do a quick introduction of our talented engineering and human resources professionals. We are also going to have a panel question time period, as well as opportunity for you to bring your burning questions to the floor. We'd love to hear from you, so please feel free to enter your questions in the chat at any time during our conversation, and we will review those at the end of our presentation. Following our open Q&A session, we will also have a little wrap up, say some thank yous, and share a survey with you for a resume workshop, which we'll be doing post-event, where we'll have opportunity to review your resumes live with someone from our Walter Fady team. So a little bit about who Walter Fady is. Founded in 1951, Walter Fady is an integrated design firm delivering creative solutions and practical built environments. Our team serves the GTA and beyond, from offices in Kitchener, Hamilton, Toronto, and as of last week, now in Calgary. Some of our core services include architecture, interior design, electrical, structural, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, energy and carbon solutions, and project management. So coming to you from Kitchener, we have Matt Woods, who is an EIT project manager. Matt, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Jody. As mentioned, my current role here at Walter Fady is with our Energy and Carbon Solutions group here as a project manager and Energy and Carbon EIT. My background, academic background, is from Carleton University. I studied sustainable and renewable energy engineering, so definitely very in theme with my current position. I did 2 previous co-ops with the Energy and Carbon Solutions group here before joining full-time in 2023, just as the pandemic was starting. Currently, I have the unique privilege of working on many exciting projects, anything from full net zero building designs all the way through to emissions road mapping for municipalities.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt. Tyler Bowman is one of our business unit leaders here at Walter Fady. Tyler, share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Tyler Bowman. I lead our engineering team from mechanical, electrical, structural, and ECS. I co-lead with a business partner of mine, and I've been here. My background, I went to the University of Waterloo, did a bachelor's of applied science and civil engineering, and then I worked here ever since. So I did my last co-op here at Walter Fady. I started full-time after that. Working as a structural engineer, eventually leading the structural team, and now leading our engineering teams across all the offices.
Thank you, Tyler. Next in our panel, we have Samantha Farrow, who's an electrical engineer in our teams.
Hi guys, so my name's Sam. I graduated from Western University. I did electrical engineering. I've been at Walter Fady for 2 months now. So I recently went through the interviewing process to acquire this position, and this is my 4th job since graduating. So yeah, but by my choice every time. So at least, because I graduated in 2018, so 5 years ago. So I really like my current role. Like, I work mainly in healthcare. So we do a lot of renovations for one of our big clients, like Hamilton Health Sciences, which is really cool. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor when I was younger, but I am very squeamish. So it's nice to be able to indirectly help in the healthcare sector.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about that, Sam. And our last panelist for today is Amanda Pohl. She is our talent acquisition manager here at Walter Fady. Amanda, share us about yourself.
Thanks, Jody. Hi, my name is Amanda Pohl. As Jody said, I'm the talent acquisition manager. Been in HR and recruitment for about 15 years. Been with Walter Fady, just reached my 1-year anniversary, and the past year has been great learning about the organization and working collaboratively with all aspects of the company. And one of my favorite parts of it is doing events like this and reaching out to new people to join our organization. So welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing a little bit about who you are, where you've come from as far as education or background in industry, and what you get to do here at Walter Fady. So part of today is learning how to make your pitch perfect. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. And we'll jump right into our panel questions. Oh, so this is going to be a good one. I'm going to start with you, Sam. What is the best way to answer the question, tell us about yourself?
So I think the best way, whenever I am given this question during an interview, I always explain like my background. So it was what you did, what you're looking to do, also just experience. So like what you've done in the past, like final projects for school, since most of you are coming out of your undergrad, and just like a couple other things that like you like to do. So it's not all about school and work. So like I like to run and I like to knit. So throw those in.
Yeah, I think Samantha, that's key. It's really I use it as like an icebreaker question. It's to get people the conversation flowing. So as you know, Sam said, share, not only what you've done in terms of the technical aspects and that kind of work, but who are you? We're trying to just open up that dialogue, and we will inevitably get to all the questions on projects and experience and so forth. But I would, and this is me personally, I would look at it as more of a, let's open up the dialogue and get people comfortable talking and sharing, and that's the approach I would look to see, and the reason we would ask that kind of question.
Now, Amanda, what are you looking for in that answer? As someone who's part of the HR team, what are you looking for in those responses or in asking that question?
I always like to kind of hear why you chose to start schooling in engineering. And I've heard lots of different, parents have been engineers, or it's just been a passion since, being a child. So I always like to kind of hear that background and what's really the underlying reason for starting this career.
Okay, great to hear. And Matt, what about you? What do you feel when you are interviewing co-op students, as you often do, what are you looking for in the answer from some of our up and coming new recruits and new grads?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of in line with what Tyler mentioned, just kind of getting a feel for them. In some of these cases, it may be the first time we're meeting. I may have looked at their resume beforehand, but it's really that ice-breaking kind of starting the conversation and really getting to know them a little bit. I think that's really key, and just kind of going from there.
Great, thank you. So when you have no industry experience, how do you promote yourself? How do you market yourself to your interviewer or to organizations that you are applying with? Matt?
Yeah, I would say a great approach to use is, or one that I look for maybe in a co-op or a new hire, would be really the willingness to learn. I think that's really a key piece going into these new roles. There's going to be new challenges and new things to learn as you get immersed in that role. So I'd say that's one thing that I definitely look for, is sort of that attitude and that willingness to learn and to be excited kind of going to work every day. Another key one, and I think this is, just with the engineering mindset, is problem solving. So a lot of the questions that I ask is structured around that. that. Just want to understand a little bit about how you think and how you work through problems. And I'd say lastly, maybe communication. I think often in engineering, we really focus on the technical side of things, but just, demonstrating your communication skills and how you'll incorporate those as you would in the role.
Great, thank you. Amanda, what about you? What do you see when people come in for an interview, maybe a new grad, someone with limited experience in the field? What are you looking for when they are marketing themselves?
I think it's a key thing to highlight the skills that you do have, but also being open and honest, saying, I noticed, for example, I don't have that HVAC heat loading calculation experience that you're looking for, but I'm willing to learn, or I looked it up, and then ask a question, kind of put it back on the interviewer and ask them like a technical question to learn while you're in the interview is always a great way to show like your thirst for knowledge and that continuous learning, which is a big part of our culture here at Walter Beatty.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll picking up on that as well. Don't sell yourself short. Consulting engineering isn't all technical experience. It's, as Matt said, communication. It's how do you want to approach the work, and how do your desire to learn and so forth. Those are all skills that you pick up throughout your life, through university, and so forth. And employers that are interviewing somebody who's recently graduated, they recognize that, the experience will vary widely depending on where you go to school, but we also recognize a lot of what you learn in school is the foundation of building future knowledge and expertise. So what we're looking for, and from our perspective, is how do you approach your career? We'll ask examples about, how you've solved problems or conflicts and so forth, to kind of tease out that those skills that Amanda said you do have, and you will have learned, that are applicable as well.
So Tyler, yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I was gonna say, to build on that too, like coming out of like school, you're not like, I can say for the consulting industry, like very few of my classes related to the consulting, like how to calculate like three-phase power was like the gist of it, and like protection. So like they're really looking for like also like your personality, like they're looking to see, will you jive with this company? Like, are you going to be compatible working with others? And that's a big part of it. They're just looking at you versus like you as a person versus like your resume. And then to go on off of what Amanda said too, like understanding like what you do know and what you don't know. I actually asked one of our colleagues that was in both my interviews, and I was like, what did I do well that made you hire me? And I think Amanda was in my interview, my second one, and I said, I don't know. I was like, I don't know this, but I'm learning this. And so that's what Melissa said that she really liked, that I knew what I liked, I knew what I knew, and I knew what I didn't know, but I was willing to learn what I didn't know. So.
Well, that leads right into our next question, which is about maybe some of the common mistakes or maybe mishaps we see new grads make in interviews. So I know Amanda and Sam, you guys touched on that. Knowing what I don't know is important. So what are some of those little mistakes you see during interviews with new grads?
Well, I can say from my coworker this week who was interviewing some co-op students, make sure you know the name of the company, because he had a student call it Waterfred. So
okay.
Know the name of the company is the should be obvious, but yeah.
I haven't had the opportunity recently to interview too many new grads, but in the past, in some of my past roles, sometimes we want our the candidates to be comfortable, but sometimes they get too comfortable and share too much information, and it's not necessarily inappropriate, but it's not related to, you know, the role. And some of it is an example would be, you know, they may not want to be here over the next in 2 years, and then as a employer, we're looking to, especially at Walter Fady, to hire, coach, mentor, grow people's careers along with us. So it you know, there's nuances to that, but if that's what you want to do, you know, I'd prefer to know, to be honest. But if it's just a thought in your head, you might want to just be mindful of what you're sharing in that context. If you know you're going to be gone for in 2 years, then, you know, I'd prefer to actually know in that interview. But balance that with your opportunity and how you want to progress your career, because you may start with us and never want to go. So don't miss that opportunity to actually start with us by accidentally sharing a bit too much.
I think for me, it's just going back to the general housekeeping rules, right? So finding a quiet space, don't have your birds or cats wandering around the screen. Make sure that, you know, your roommates or household aren't vacuuming at the time of your interview. It's a virtual interview, being dressed appropriately. Just those little things that really kind of stand out to us as we're doing interviews, for sure, is a big thing.
Yeah, I would reiterate that. I had a recent experience with a candidate, and unfortunately they were having technical difficulties where we weren't able to really hear them. And so, you know, having that kind of took away from the interview process a little bit. We weren't able to get a fair evaluation of the candidate. So things like that are often do a trial run before are great strategies to make sure all your technology, and as Amanda mentioned, that you're in a quiet space as well.
I think too, when it comes to the talking part of the interview, you know, a big no-no would be like criticizing any previous employers or colleagues. I think that's a big kind of red flag for us. And sometimes not talking enough. So, you know, just giving those one-worded short answers. We're looking for people we're testing you on your communication skills and how you can effectively communicate in detail, you know, how you know, come across. So sometimes if we're trying to pull things out of a candidate, it kind of gives us those transferable skills of how they're going to work in the workplace too.
Absolutely. So comparatively, in recent interviews with candidates, what is something, or, you know, something a candidate did that made you really go, wow, during an interview?
Yeah, maybe I can jump. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Matt.
I think one thing that kind of jumped out to me recently with a candidate was just how they prepared and structured some of their responses when they were selling themselves. Common acronym that I've heard is BAR, background, action, result. You know, we may not have met you before. Again, this is maybe we've seen a resume. This is the first time we're meeting you. So when the questions of tell me about a time when type questions, often that BAR acronym is helpful. Just have a well structured answer, you know, a little bit background about what the situation was, what was going on, what action did you do to kind of work through that challenge or whatever the question may be. And then the result of that just really helps sell yourself and us to follow along, just maybe with not the context in the background for that.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, it's asking questions to the panelists as well. So asking them what's their favorite part of their job, especially, you know, when if you're talking mechanical to mechanical, right? Asking what is it that you like, and that finding that commonality, but also about the culture, and that gives, you know,
engineers are special because they're involved in everything that.
There we go. Continue, Amanda.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, and I think just kind of going back to showing that preparedness is really great to see that you've had those questions, you've thought about them, and you have very specific questions that you want to ask related to Walter Fady. take the time to look at the website, ask about previous or current projects or about our culture and values. That really goes a long way when you're chatting with individuals from Walter Fady.
To build on,
I think, sorry, go ahead, Sam.
I was gonna say, to build on what Amanda says, like in some interviews, I have like actually physically written down stuff and I bring that piece of paper in with me. You're allowed to do that. Like you can bring, like I've got a piece of paper in front of me right now that I wrote all these questions on too, just so I don't forget things, because I tend to do that. So yeah, because that shows preparedness. And my tip for interviews too, like learn their websites. Just read through and make sure you know everything about the company. That helps. Sorry.
It's kind of funny because one of the things I was gonna say later on, maybe around taking notes, be paid, like people that pause to reflect on the question and give a question. Sometimes or give a good answer, full answer. Is sometimes people want to rush into answering a question and then it's not thought through as good as it could be. And so those moments they can feel awkward, but only if you let them. But take a second, think about it, answer the question. I'd rather hear a reflective answer versus a rushed one. One of the other things that it wasn't so much a wow, I would say, but oftentimes I can see people look and say, as a part of a team, and the team delivered this, or our 4th year project team, capstone project, we did this. And there's a fine balance because we want to know we want to know what you contributed to it. But I value it personally, you sharing credit. Our team worked through this, but I did this in our team is actually important. So for us to know and evaluate and assess your capacity, and the interviews that go the smoothest are the ones I don't have to, okay, what did you do on that part in that team, and it just kind of flows through the candidate that they share credit, but they explain their role in those environments. Because when you're employed in the consulting industry, almost every job is working on a team. So we want to know that as well, but we want to know how you will contribute to that team. We lost our lights in Jody's office.
We did lose my life. I'm like, I need to.
It's behind the monitor, Jody.
Oh, oh, there you go. Oh, it's behind the monitor. Oh, you see all the fun. And yet, like everything in life, there will be little things that just throw you sideways. And so you just got to roll with it as well, even in your interviews. I think it's great, all of you sharing so far, that those wow factors, and I love hearing so much about them. Now, switching it to the side of when a candidate, we come to that end of the interview and, well, do you have any questions for us? What are maybe some key questions that you think candidates should be asking of their potential employer?
I think Amanda hit on a few of them already, actually. Asking, sorry, Amanda. Asking, why do we like working at the place of employment? What have we experienced as we started our careers? Go into an interview knowing it's as much about understanding who your employer for you as it is for us understanding what you want out of employment, because it's got to be a win-win. We want people that are excited to be here, and if it may not be for everyone in that place you're interviewing for, and so we want to make sure that you'll be successful in your career. So we want to hear those questions. Ask about things that I love to hear is like, so how can I be involved? Like, do you have committees? Do you have clubs? Do you have every employer has different aspects that you can be involved outside of the actual role of you're interviewing for. Those are questions that kind of support your interest in investment in the business and or the company, and the culture and the relationship aspect are in those kind of questions.
I also think asking like, what would my first 30 days look like? Like, what would a typical day look like? And that's really, as Tyler was saying, it's as much as us interviewing you, but you interviewing us. We want to make sure that it's a good fit. So, you know, and if there's anything kind of red flag or things you're not really sure, ask. It's okay to ask again and get a deeper dive into really what that looks like, because this is a huge decision to make. So we want to make sure that it's the right fit for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think a key piece too is visualizing yourself kind of in that position and asking questions around that. What would a typical day look like? What are the opportunities for growth? What are the opportunities for learning? Really trying to get your, as Amanda mentioned, what do those first 30 days look like? Can you envision yourself in the role? I think are really key questions to ask around to sort of facilitate that.
I would also say don't pick the opportunity and make sure it's the appropriate time. You do want to understand compensation. Sometimes it's one that is everyone shies away from. And okay, it can be asked in the wrong way, but it can also be asked in the right way. And employers know we have to pay you and compensate you. So it's not a taboo question. Don't feel that it is. I think at Walter Fady, so we have 2 interviews for all our full-time positions. And usually at the end of the first, we want to get that understanding. Are we in the right ballpark? Are we talking the same language in terms of your expectations? And we can navigate that in the second interview if you move on. And so that it is a useful, it's useful information for yourself as well as for your employer to know that we're on the same page. And have a number, have a range, maybe not a number. Don't just say whatever you think is good. It doesn't help anybody, to be quite honest. So have a reasonable understanding of what you would expect in the industry for that role.
And I think, you know, showing that you've done your research on the compensation, you know, other students that have recently, you know, if you're talking with other new grads and where they're at and what our competition is, it's yeah, again, it's coming to that right number with you.
Great, thank you so much. In asking those questions as a candidate, what does a typical day look like? What does my first 30 days look like? What is the compensation package including? How else did you prepare for entering the working world? So you've gone to school, oh goodness, for 4 years, right? That last 6 weeks is brutal, but you made it, you're done. And now you're looking for a job to start off your career. You worked passionately for it in school. So how do you prepare yourself for now moving from school and the theoretical learning and the interactions there, the hands-on learning in class, to the workplace?
Yeah, I might go back to the communication piece. I think that's really key, kind of in preparing yourself going out into the working world, whether it's selling yourself in an interview and highlighting your skills or communicating with sort of your direct supervisor as you enter your new role to communicate questions. And then as you start to communicate technically as well as you're doing your engineering work and consulting, often we summarize that and communicate that to our clients. So really having that communication piece, I think, was advice I'd gotten kind of as I was graduating and joining the workforce. And I think it's really been beneficial just in my learning and growth for sure.
What about you, Sam?
For the real world, so a nice thing at Western we have the option of doing is like I know Waterloo has like the 4-month co-ops. I got to take a year off between my 3rd and 4th year, and I did a 16-month internship. So I worked for 16 months straight. So it was like, it kind of gave me a little taste of like, okay, this is what being an adult is like showing up every day, just being prepared for every day, every working day. So like transitioning from school to the real world, I guess I would say I'm extroverted, so it wasn't too bad to communicate myself and to sell myself in the good way, not But yeah, so I honestly like prepared myself for the working world. I was really ready for it. I was pretty done with homework and school. So it's a nice balance. Like you get that work-life balance finally, get paid. So you're not starving anymore. So it was kind of a nice transition, I would say. But like, yeah, just making sure like being prepared for everything. You kind of like use that time management skills you learned in school. Cause like I'm sure everyone engineering it was a wild ride with everything that was due. Take those time management skills and take them towards your future world because they will come in handy, especially in consulting. We are a very deadline based industry. And so you have to be like, and you're never working on like one project at a time. You always have multiple on the go. So that was, I guess, the big transition. It's transferring those skills.
Absolutely. And what about you, Tyler?
Well, I have to go way, way back. As I said earlier, I did my last co-op at Walter Fady. And so I before the end of that, I took two of my bosses out for lunch. I was going to pay, they ended up paying. And I said, so I'm looking for full-time employment. And I was, I look at it as I had a 4-month interview process and I understood and I knew the people. What I would say where I see people most successful that are coming out of school and it's their first, full-time employment job in the consulting world. You have to slowly understand the culture as much as you can explain and navigate it as much or talk about it in an interview. It's never exactly how it's talked about, and you have to build into that. So don't show up in flip-flops and what beachwear your first day, but maybe down the road that's the place you're working and that's acceptable. But those kind of like first impressions are important in this industry. I think prepare yourselves for ebbs and flows of workload. School at university, you can kind of predict it with assignments, exams, all that stuff. In consulting, it's not the same. Your agreement might say you're 37.5, 40 hours of work a week. But as Sam said, it's very client driven. And so that you'll get busy, you'll get slow and make sure you understand that that's kind of what you're entering into. And it works is same in the construction industry. You have the same kind of thing. So just prepare yourself for that, show up and slowly integrate into the environment on how people work, when they work the most, how if you have a hybrid work experience, like try to navigate, if geographically possible, a little bit of both in the office, out of the office, and build that understanding of the best way to work with your new colleagues and the expectations of the firm. So just be flexible, show interest to learn. When you're done something, ask for more. Those kind of things show a lot of good steps early days in your career.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to save our last question, maybe, for the end of our open Q&A. So again, a reminder, thank you so much for answering my questions. Although let's be honest, they're not just from me, they're from everyone here at Walter Fady in regards to what we've discussed in the panel. And let's move on to some of our open Q&A. So I have a question here from Ori. What's the hardest part about the transition from school and into a professional environment?
Yeah, I think Sam might have mentioned some highlights there, but I think just getting used to the general structure, kind of transitioning out of university, you may have developed your own schedule for completing assignments and working towards examinations. But really, when you enter the workforce, really you're more in that structured schedule. It's a little bit dynamic, as as Tyler mentioned, on the consulting side, as the workflow kind of flows over time. But I just think getting used to kind of coming to work every day and interacting with everyone is definitely a little bit of a change as you get a little bit dynamic in the school side, different classes at different times of the day. So you have a little bit more variation, whereas coming into the workforce, you have a little bit more of that classic 9 to 5 structure of your day. Obviously, maybe not exactly 9 to 5, but yeah, I'd say just getting used to that structure is something to work through.
I would concur with that. That was probably my hardest thing, was like, because like some days you would have like 2 hours of class a day, but then you still have to show, like for here, you still have to show up for those 7.5 hours. So it was just like that adjustment of every single day. But most places are hybrid now, which kind of helps. I would say that's been a nice adjustment.
Yeah, I would. There's the aspects of your day and how that goes forward, but one of the biggest things that I felt pretty quick when I started was, in school, you're really accountable to yourself. If you put in the effort, you get a good mark. If you go to ask the TAs for support, you can improve that. It's really about yourself and how well you want to do and how much effort you want to put into it. When you start in the consulting industry, you're part of a team, and you have tasks that build on other people's responsibilities and build on other people's. And so you really need to, for me, it was a shift. It wasn't that I wasn't accountable or I wasn't being responsible when I started, but you do kind of feel that you need deadlines driven kind of, if I don't meet my expectations, someone else doesn't meet theirs and it snowballs. That's not to put pressure on, because you should always ask for that support. You should get that guidance if you're struggling, and you shouldn't struggle too long before you ask for those questions or that support. But it's a shift. If you skip the tutorial in university, which no one here ever has, I'm sure, it's impacts you. Here it impacts others. So that's a kind of a mind shift that you want to make sure you're not taking for granted, that there is a change in expectations.
Like, yeah, just with the whole engineering is a team sport, and in the workplace, it really kicks in there. So yeah, teamwork.
Much better said than I was. I feel like I'm the hard.
It's the motto. So
Yeah,
team
exactly.
sport.
So here's another question. What is a phone screening call or a pre-screen phone call, and why do we do that? Amanda, why don't we start with you for an answer? Maybe some of our other team players.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't happen all the time, but really and that's usually Jody or I that would be doing those calls, it's just a pretty informal conversation, just wanting to hear what you're looking for, seeing if it's a match, if, just chatting a little bit about the housekeeping, what Walter Fady's life or employment is like, our culture, our values, our hybrid policy, just kind of giving you the basic information for you to make that decision. Sometimes it's, we're not hiring in a certain location. Would you be fine with this role being, might have to be in the office every day at this office, or just really setting the tone for kind of the next stage of the interviewing process.
Jumping on that as well, Amanda, as I do some of those phone screens as well, it's also opportunity. It's like those typical HR questions that we might get out of the way at the beginning, like, so what would you say are your top 3 strengths that you would bring to this role? Or how would a role like this fit into your career plan? Like, what is your plan? Like Tyler mentioned, I want to know if you're not going to be here in 2 years and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to do this for 2 years until I'm done. Or, this is my career path, these are my goals. I want to be doing this kind of a role for maybe 3 to 5 years or 2 to 3 years. And I'd like to grow more in responsibility or grow more in wisdom to move on to the next steps. Hopefully, with the organization you're still with.
Yeah, don't shrug those phone interviews off. You know, prepare in a similar way as if you sat in person. Largely why we do it, to be quite honest, when we open up, when we need a position, there are a lot of applicants. And we want to, you know, we want to spend your time wisely and dive in and interview, you know, a 30 1 hour minute interview. 1 hour minute, 1 hour interview. And so we want it to be beneficial for both sides. So don't, you know, prepare for those. Again, some of those questions Jody and Amanda shared, you know, we won't really revisit them necessarily in an interview, or we'll ask more questions around that. But it does get you to the interview. So take them seriously.
Absolutely. I have a question here from Hira, who we did talk about this a little bit, about answering the question, tell me about yourself, but specifically, what would be a good way to structure an answer to tell me a little bit about yourself?
I think it really just goes back to having more information to talk about. Don't make it such short answers, and be personal about it too, right? Share a little bit about yourself on the educational you know, experience side, but also share your values or what you're looking for that would make it a match for us as well.
I'd echo that. I don't know if I ever expect a certain response again, and I don't want to downplay the question because it's an important question, but I do see it's an icebreaker. As I said, it's, you know, but tie what your personal stuff with the opportunity. And when I say personal, it's like, what are your interests, and you know, why did you pick, you know, structural engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering to go into. So for me, I would, you know, my dad was a structural steel draftsman. He worked for a steel fabricator, and I started to grow and gained interest, and went to school and I loved it. And, you know, some maybe extracurricular stuff you did, and I'm here looking to build on that and stuff like that. I'm not, you don't have to share you have 3 kids or no, right? Like, it doesn't have to get that intense, but you're building your you know, why you're sitting in front of them and things you enjoy, and it helps us to, you know, start that conversation easier.
Absolutely. I have another question.
Can I share?
Oh, yes, please, Juliana, please ask a question.
Yeah, I got a HR like service about how to answer this question. Tell me a bit about yourself. And they recommend writing like 3 small statements, kind of summarizing your resume, because most people do not have time to read the resume. So the idea is, with this question, you can quickly highlight first your education, 1 statement, work experience, and anything else Amanda and Tyler said.
That's wonderful.
Great advice. Thank you for sharing that, Juliana. I appreciate that. Yeah, again, echoing, you know, the note taking Sam mentioned as well, you know, being prepared. You know, you want to cover, it shares, you know, these are the things that are important to me that I want to share, and I'm bringing them in. And whether that's, you know, structuring that, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, yeah, education, work experience, what I like to do for fun, and what I'm looking for as I begin a career change or journey. So another question in the chat, how important are thank you emails, like after an interview from a candidate? And what does it mean when someone doesn't get a response back after an interview?
Wow. Well, I hope that you do get a response back from an interview. That's something that we try really hard to do. I think that the thank you email is always a great a great thing to see. But I always like to see in that email things that maybe you had a takeaway from that really stood out for you. Like not just a thank you so much for taking the time, but like, thank you, I had a really great time chatting about XYZ, because then that's showing us that you've really taken into what we've talked about as well. And it's connecting the dots again about that fit for yourself and for us, and saying I really see myself doing, as Tyler mentioned, these specific things. That really resonates for us to see that as well.
I'd echo, and if you're not hearing back, don't feel like hesitant to, like at Walter Fady, I think we get back to everyone. Don't hesitate to just fire an email, or however you were left it for connection, just follow up. It's important. It's your career. It's your opportunity. The thank you email itself, I think if you're excited about a job and you feel you want that job, you should do it.
Yeah.
And it shows a ton. Customize it, as Amanda was saying, specific to the interview, so we don't read it being like, oh, they sent that to the 18 people they interviewed with. And regardless, the employer and yourself took time out of their day to talk about your career. It's a kind, respectful, thank you. And if it's not the role you want, you can even say it in that. Like, don't spend your time. Don't say it this way, but really saying, I appreciate your time after considering this. I'm not sure if I'm interested in a second interview. Say it a bit different, but basically saying thank you. Don't spend more time with thinking about my role at the company.
Jumping back to the, not getting a response, we do definitely try to respond to all applicants that we've interviewed, and we are human as well. So again, like Tyler said, reach out, if you haven't, let us know, because it's important to us to make sure that we are keeping those connections and that we are following through. And so, thank you for the opportunity for us to learn and grow when we've, slipped up and maybe not done what we've said we were going to do. And so that communication is key as well. Another question, how to distinguish yourself from other applicants, especially when, 100+ people might apply for the same role?
I think for me, it's the top of your resume. If you could really do those key points of specific job requirements or experience, it really kind of stands out. Yes, a mechanical EIT position that we had posted, we had 1,000 applicants. So it's really hard to really just figure out. So if you're taking that time to apply, one, make sure that you have the name of the company right. If you're copying and pasting, just a little tip, a trick. Making sure you have no spelling mistakes. That's again, we're looking at that eye to detail, being able to see what someone is able to do with their print work and their communication skills. And really just having your key top things that you're looking for, I think, is what really makes a resume stand out for me.
I'm going to ask Amanda, what do you see with cover letters? Not just in general, do you see a benefit?
I have a mixed reaction to those. If it's a very high level skilled role, someone with experience, I will look at it. But in all honesty, I don't really have time for cover letters. That's my opinion. But, yeah.
No, I think that's I value that response. It is something you should invest some time into, but then you have to recognize that when you're entering into the workforce out of university, really your knowledge base is largely known by an employer. Not everything about you, but we kind of generalize, if we're hiring somebody out of school, this is what we expect them to know, and this is what we're going to, the role they're going to have, and they're going to develop that knowledge. So you really want to highlight, really good experience, co-op experience, summer job experience, even if it's not at a consulting firm. Like, what are those key skills that you're going to bring? So that we want to read actually, oh, where'd they learn that? And we're starting to dive into your resume a little bit deeper. But I'd agree with a cover letter. I don't hesitate to put them in. Some employers might read them and expect that to show up. So don't set yourself back by not doing it. But really that resume is where you start, or CV, you start to shine and stand out.
Perfect. Well, we are coming up to a few minutes left in our panel presentation today. And I just have a couple of last questions. So I'm just going to pick on a couple of individual people. We want to take time to thank all of our supporters at the end of this. So jumping into our last few questions. A quick one for Amanda. How would you structure an answer for questions like, what did you least like about your last job?
I think it would go back to still being professional, one, right? You don't want to throw anyone under the bus or be unprofessional with talking badly about someone, but being able to work it around of, I didn't like it, but also having a reason why you didn't like something, I think is a really good point. So, I didn't like it because of XYZ. And maybe that might be, you've realized this isn't an aspect of engineering that you want to go into. Like, just be prepared to elaborate a little bit more on them.
Okay, thank you. Another one, much in today's world, social media is a big thing, but do you have any advice, any of you, about reaching out to an employee on LinkedIn that works at a company you are really interested in? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. LinkedIn is a wonderful platform. I'm always very open and honest at career fairs that I myself get a lot of messages. So I am not the best at responding to another avenue of emails and messages, but I love interacting with people when I do have time to get on there and make those connections. I'm always trying to meet new people, and I think that's a great way to even just connect with another person, another new grad that's recently joined a company, and hear from them if that to you too.
I would again, don't take those lightly. More often than not, I have people sending me like, hey, this person, like whether it's a copy and paste, a screenshot, would you be interested? And so say why you're interested. Say, how do you best see me getting in touch to talk about an opportunity? I don't see open posts, but I'd still love to discuss what you guys do. Because it's not, the person you're emailing may not be the only person, or LinkedIn and messaging in LinkedIn may not be the only person that sees that. And you can really set yourself up for success when you do that, because it may go to the people that are hiring directly. So whoever you're messaging, talk about why you're excited to work there. Ask questions that you might ask in an interview that are getting, and see what happens. I've never done it, but it seems like a good idea, because we have reached out to people that have done that actually.
I was going to say, how I got my current position here was through LinkedIn. So yeah. But I wasn't but yeah, don't discount LinkedIn for getting a job. That's how I got this job, and it's a great switch.
If you're excited, it will come out in your conversation. It's making those connection requests. But don't just connect with somebody. Always send a message when you're connecting, like, hey, you know what? I've read a lot about your company. I don't see any job postings up right now, but I'd love to chat more with you about future opportunities. And that is one last question I want to wrap up with. Do we have to see a job posting to apply for a role? And how do we introduce ourselves to potential employers, even if they don't have a role available?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'd echo what Tyler had mentioned, just about that connections internally. It only takes that one initial message, kind of highlighting, why you're interested, and some research, and that conversation can kind of, like as Tyler mentioned, a screenshot gets sent to someone. Oh, I know so and so was looking for someone in this role within the company, and they just hadn't got to post in the position yet, and you can work through it that way. So I definitely wouldn't undervalue sending a message and just seeing where it goes.
And I would say even applying for different positions that even something you're kind of got the skills for. So I know actually my downstairs neighbor also works at Walter Fady, and she applied to a different position, but someone else saw her resume and was like, no, I want her for my team. So then that's how she got hired. So
But we still share across teams.
yeah.
No,
Well-
that definitely do that. There's other ways too. I'll just share an example quickly. I know Jody, I think you're gonna wrap up there.
Last 5 minutes, we need to wrap up, Tyler, come on.
Okay, but an individual in our structural team had some foreign trained experience, and she came in and said, I just moved here with her husband, can I volunteer some time? And so we have to navigate that. We can't have people doing work and not pay them. So they came in, they were part of some team discussions looking at stuff we did. And over time, we had somebody there we knew was capable of doing stuff. And, it was pretty quickly when we had to employ her part-time because we needed her skill set, and she continues to work for us. So I'm not saying volunteering is the way in, but drop a resume off, try to talk to somebody if you can. That's where a cover letter might help you out a little bit, if it's on top, those kind of things. So you don't need to wait for a posting, but you may not get heard back from right away, I guess, if we're not actively looking for a role.
Okay. So for those of you that are still wanting to add questions, please reach out to us via email. We'd love to answer any of those questions. I just want to thank Tyler, Sam, Matt, and Amanda for taking time today to share about their experiences and to have us picking their brains about all things interviews, pitch related, because we're here to help you make your pitch perfect. So first of all, after thanking our panelists, I want to thank our behind the scenes team, Bella and Ori, for helping put it together all of our marketing and communications, this panel as well. Moving on, we want to thank some of our partners. As part of NEM and this event lineup, we want to thank Humber as our leader partner. And we also have a host of champion partners, which you can read here. Thank you to those champion partners. Also our ally partners. We're so thankful for the support for National Engineering Month initiatives. And also thank you to our advocate partners. We're very excited again that you were able to join us. We will be offering a resume review session using a link that's going to be posted in the chat right now, I believe. Bella's posted that resume review session. You can sign up for that as a thank you for participating with us today. And also feel free to reach out to us via email if you have any further questions or on LinkedIn to keep up those connections as well. We'd love to hear more from you. We'd love to stay in touch. Sometimes that first connection when you are pitching yourself is not going to be an immediate answer, but those connections are super important as we move forward in our careers, and networking in these ways, putting ourselves out there, are very important in the overall career journey. So thank you once again to everyone who's joined us. Thank you for the team at OSPI for supporting us technically and getting things going as well. We really appreciate all of you.